Hey there guys, it's Adam here from adaminsights.com, and in this video I'm just going to show you how I clean the sensor in my Fuji XH1. This is an IBIS camera, so that's in Body Image Stabilisation. So there's just a few things to be aware of. There's also an APS-C camera, and that's important because it means that we're going to be using APS-C size sensor swabs. Now, don't worry about the fact that I'm right next to a kitchen sink. I'm not going to be running any water over the camera, but it actually does bring me to my first point. I'm in my kitchen, which is easily the cleanest part of my whole house because there's no carpets that can give off fibre, and there's no furniture that can give off fibre. These surfaces are visually, I can see that they're spotlessly clean. And I can also see any dust around, and I know that they're also dry, so I'm not going to inadvertently introduce any dust, moisture, or anything that could cause problems for the camera later on. So we want to make sure that we're cleaning our sensor in a nice, clean environment. You know, I even clean my Leica M10 sensor in here as well. Okay, so I've been through the menus in my camera, and I have turned off the image stabilisation. That, when the camera is turned back on, will mean that the sensor is locked into place. Because if the camera's off, there's no stabilisation on, and the sensor's just going to wobble around when we try and clean it. That's bad. But if you turn off the in-body image stabilisation in the menus and then have the camera on, the sensor is going to be locked into place, and it won't move around. If you move the camera around, it will be locked firmly, flat, front and center, and you can do what you need to do on it. I've also turned off shoot without lens. That means that we're not going to inadvertently fire the shutter while we're working, because if we've got something touching the sensor and then the shutter goes off, obviously we're going to damage the shutter. So that's another important thing to remember. Anyway, down to the process that I use to clean my camera sensor. I've got the body cap and the lens back cap here as well. This is important. I'm just going to take a rocket blow. Make sure there's no dust around. Blow out the caps. Lens comes off, put the cap on to keep dust off. Alright. Camera's on. I'm just going to blow off any dust, any large particles or coarse particles of dust on here, because we don't want any large or coarse particles on the sensor when we use a swab later on, so we could scratch the sensor. So I'm just going to give it a quick dust off with the air blower. Okay, when you blow off the inside of the camera, work from the outside in, because then as you're blowing air and dust around, you're always going to be, the dust is always going to move inwards. So if you start from the outside and move in, you know that you're going to end up with a clean sensor. Alright, next step, these swabs. VSGO is what I use and like to recommend. They recommend using a wet swab, sorry, a dry swab first on the sensor, and then a wet swab, and then a dry swab. I don't do that. I just go straight for the wet swab and then the dry swab to dry it off, and then I actually just give the sensor another few puffs of air, because these do seem to leave some absolute microscopic pieces of lint or dust on the sensor, and that just finishes the job and gets them off there. So we put a couple of drops of sensor fluid on the swab, which is going to be the wet one. I just drip a little bit out to make sure there's no dust on the end of that. Just let that soak in. Now I'm going to clean the sensor from one side and then back the other way. Now time for the dry swab. And I'm all done. Something I'd like to do just to finish it off, I just blow off the back of the lens that I'm about to put on there. Just make sure there's no dust on there that I could reintroduce into the camera. I just thought I saw a little bit of lint on the bayonet of the lens, but I was wrong. So I'm just going to turn the Body Image Stabilisation back on. And all seems to be back in order. Thanks guys.